Modi versus who? But I just want to quote what Narasimha Rao reportedly once famously said, that you can defeat the BJP, but you can't defeat Ram. Do you believe, Swapan Dasgupta, that's how the BJP wants to pitch it? Presidential, yes, but also about that the BJP is the flag bearer of this political Hindutva. Now, Yogendra Yadav says the BJP is thereby, in a way, moving beyond constitutional propriety by exploiting religion and religious emotions. He believes it's anti-constitutional. Your response to that, is it the BJP invoking Ram?
You know, I think I've heard some of the most bizarre arguments here. There is a suggestion that the Ram temple, and that's a quite right suggestion, that the Ram temple is being built courtesy the sanction accorded by the Supreme Court. That I don't think anyone will deny that. But it's also being suggested that the Ram temple, everything associated with the construction and the consecration and the Pran Pratishtha of the Ram temple will have to be done clinically without arousing a single element of religious fervor. Absurd. You know, how do you do it? No one must be there. There must be no saffron flags. There must be no overt signs of religiosity. It must be a clinical, constitutional affair, so that Ram being transformed into something like a constitutional deity sans any ideological, cultural, religious baggage. Now, that's an absurd sort of situation. Whether the Congress and the other opposition parties should have attended this, I personally believe because they were always consistently opposed to the construction of the Ram temple right throughout the 30 years. They were always. And they believed that the Supreme Court, the reference to the court, was a way of judicial prevarication, which would result in no decision ever being taken.
Well, to be fair, there are different congressmen who have spoken in different voices. To be fair on that, different congressmen have spoken. Yeah, go ahead.
Rajdeep, let me just say, I believe that the Congress should have attended it, partly to atone for these misdeeds of the past and to avoid themselves being called anti-Hindu. I'm not calling them anti-Hindu, but that suspicion that they are not particularly sympathetic to the impulses of the Hindu faith will persist. It may be an unfair suggestion, but I think, everything is not fair in love and elections. As far as, directly talking about faith and elections, I don't think anybody will. But I think the fact that Ram Temple is there, it will be touted as one of those icons of an emerging India. Now, whether you want to say that itself would mean religion, it's probably stretching it too far. So I think you're going to have a bit of a tough time actually disentangling culture and religion from the Indian reality.
Let me get both Pawan Verma and Yogendra Yadav to respond to that. You first, Pawan Verma. You just heard what Swapan Dasgupta says. He says, look, this is the reality that that the opposition at one level is escaping from, that Ram has this emotional pull, and you can't expect this to be a constitutional deity. These are his words. It will be in some way or the other seen as a religious deity.
Of course, I cannot disagree with that. If the Ram temple is being built, to what extent can you sanitize the event? By keeping all semblance of popular support, which will translate into political gain.
No, are we saying, but recall what happened, just a minute. Recall what happened with the Somnath Mandir in the 1950s. The Prime Minister Nehru said, I am staying away from it because I don't want the Indian state to be identified with a particular religion. In a way, it seems that the burial of Nehruvian secularism is taking place.
Well, I think Nehruvian secularism is, I'm very proud of Jawaharlal Nehru and his legacy, however much denigrated he is today. But I do believe that in many ways, Jawaharlal Nehru, for all that was his greatness, was out of sync with some of the realities on the ground of the ancient civilizational heritage of India. As someone who saw modernity entirely in a Western paradigm, he largely dismissed some of the remarkable achievements of the past as the deadwood of the past, that we have to move out of it. This is not in sync with Indian reality. And that is why Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who's as Gandhian as you can get, as president decided to go for Somnath. That doesn't mean that Dr. Rajendra Prasad will not go to a church, will not go to a masjid, will not go to a gurdwara. In India, secularism is not defined in the French term of complete separation of church and state, but it is defined in terms of respect for all faiths. And that is the danger I want to point out to, that the Ram temple will be inaugurated on 22nd January. But if there are elements in the larger Sangh Parivar who troll Mohan Bhagwat ji, the president of the RSS, if he goes to a mosque or meets with leading Muslim intellectuals for having betrayed Hinduism,
So
is the BJP any more in control of its own narrative? This is the danger. Where is the right balance? Because the opposition has proved itself totally ineffectual. I think they met in 2023 in June. Within a week, they should have had a common minimum program, a secretariat and a working group on seat organization.